Imagine you're not even competing at an event and hordes of fans surround the exits and scream your name. Well, that's what happened at a Utah gymnastics event on January 6th. Even though Dunne wasn't present, a mob of teen boys nearly blocked the exits and demanded everyone who came out to tell them where she was. And Dunne wasn't impressed by this. So today, we're taking a look at what she had to say. First up, a brief recap of what happened. So on January 6th, Olivia Dunne's gymnastics team, or more specifically, the Louisiana State University gymnastics team, competed against the University of Utah at the Huntsman Center in Salt Lake City. Now, keep in mind that Olivia wasn't part of this. It was an opening season meet, and her team wasn't able to get a win out of it. But that's when things got out of hand. Outside the center, hundreds of teen boys were waving flags, screaming Dunne's name, and demanding that, quote, "We want her. Give us Lizzie. We want Lizzie," end quote. And here's your reminder that those teenage boys are a part of America's great future. But we'll get into those details later because things got creepy real quick. Anyway, Utah sports writer Josh Furlong, who was at the event, live tweeted about the whole thing and shared photos of the teens holding up posters and letters that read Livy along with a life-size cutout of her. They probably thought she'd be there in support of her team, which is a reasonable thing to assume, but then things went off the rails. The boys were hoping to catch a glimpse of her, so they formed a chaotic mob outside the center. Furlong tweeted that he'd never seen anything like this as he walked out and saw the gang of boys screaming Olivia's name. What's more, the police had to intervene. If you've seen videos of the whole thing, then you don't need us telling you that it was a hot mess. The boys were loud, aggressive, and unwilling to let anyone pass without crowding their personal space. Local police are usually on standby at events like these, just in case, but you never hope to actually call them in. Furlong then tweeted that they had to intervene and that the LSU team bus had to be moved so they wouldn't run into the gang of boys. Not to mention, the group of teens made things very uncomfortable for everyone. Now, ordinarily, you would think that's where it all ends, and everyone got in their cars or bikes and went home to have some hot chocolate. But unfortunately, it got really creepy instead. Samantha Pezek, a three-time NCAA champion and sports broadcaster, shared a video on Twitter that shows the boys screaming and yelling for Olivia Dunne, and one boy even asked Pezek if she knew where she was. In her tweet, she described it as a scary, cringy, and disturbing experience, adding that she felt embarrassed for them. Kathy Johnson-Clark, a former gymnast and Olympic medalist, replied to the tweet saying that she was just behind Pezek and that the boys kept asking her whether she was Livy's mom. But okay, let's give the teens the benefit of the doubt and assume that they meant nothing bad by it. After all, they were just excited and just boys being boys, right? Well, that's where Utah gymnast Jillian Hoffman's mom comes in. She wrote a Facebook post where she described her experience with the gang of boys who came up to Jillian and her teammate and said, and we quote, "You're not Livy, but you'll do. You're Livy 2.0, end quote. So again, boys being boys, not so much. Jillian's mom also added that it was very hard for the mama bear not to come out, and we disagree. Mama bear should have come out. Imagine taking your child home after a long day and being approached by a large group of teenage boys who are not only disrespectful, but don't even care enough to know your name. Next, Olivia Dunne wants her fans to respect her profession and the people involved. This whole situation reminds us of that VidCon debacle Logan Paul got himself in back in 2017. Remember that? He hosted an unofficial meetup with fans, and things obviously went haywire. He was swarmed by fans left, right, and center and had to literally run away in order not to get squashed by people. It was a hot mess, and VidCon CEO Jim Louderbach discouraged unofficial meetups for one reason. It's very unsafe for both people and the creator or the celebrity. Now, of course, the two situations are completely different. There weren't 30,000 fans stampeding through a small building, but it was still numerous teen boys who made women uncomfortable with their screaming and disrespect. The security risk remains the same, whether it's the VidCon situation or the Huntsman Center. And Olivia Dunne wasn't impressed either. She posted a tweet where she urged her fans to be respectful of other gymnasts and the gymnastics community as a whole if they come to an unofficial meet. They have a job to do, and they're people who are tired after a long day and just want to go home to their families. Now, this raises another question. Will this stop anytime soon? Well, there's no way to say whether or not it will. In our opinion, the sad reality is that dangerous situations like these might crop up more frequently in the future. Up-and-coming athletes and celebrities understand the power of TikTok. They know that tens of millions of people are using the app every day, and they use that to promote their profession, lifestyle, business, merch, and everything in between. It's literally the only way viral content gets made these days, and eventually finds itself on Instagram, Twitter, and other social media apps. There's a lot of upside to this, since people use the app for educational purposes and to promote local businesses and other events. But on the other hand, you've you've got misinformation, toxic influencers, and a whole lot of teens who can't wait to meet their favorite celebrity, or in this case, famous gymnast. Olivia's meteoric rise to one of the most famous gymnasts in recent years has been good for both herself and her team, not to mention that it's helped to popularize gymnastics among the younger generation. But then again, there's the downside of fans creating borderline unsafe spaces for the same people involved in the sport. Up next, LSU has beefed up its security following the incident. Just like the VidCon situation, the most important part of ensuring everyone's safety is to increase security. In a recent interview with ESPN reporter Alyssa Ronick, LSU head coach Jay Clark said that the gymnastics team will now have a full security detail with them whenever they go on the road. There are also some minor changes made to the way the student athletes and their fans interact during home meets. The athletes and fans mostly interact across a guardrail like the one outside Huntsman Center. But now LSU will monitor those interactions closely, making sure that each athlete spends as little time as possible near the guardrails. Other than that, there's also been a change in the way the athletes interact with their families after an event. So usually, LSU lets them go into the stands with their families and talk to them, but there'll be no more of that. They'll still get time with their families, but it won't be in the stands to make sure the fan base doesn't come barreling down at them. These seem like good policy changes, and hopefully they'll prevent further incidents from happening. But this should also be a teachable moment for the boys themselves. They behaved poorly, and they need to understand that their actions have consequences. They're teens now, sure, but eventually they'll be young adults and begin a whole new generation of people. And if they don't make better choices in their interactions with celebrities or student athletes, then they'll make the world a more dangerous place than it already is. Coming up, Olivia Dunne, how she became the new queen of gymnastics. Even though it might seem like she vaulted into the world of gymnastics over the last 2 years, she's actually been in love with it since she was a toddler. On her website, she wrote that she wanted to get into the sport because she wanted to wear a sparkly pink leotard. But little did she know that in a few years, she'd be the talk of the world. At the age of 5, she tried out for her local gym's pre-team. And you know how when you start to do something, it takes a while to understand it? Not for Olivia Dunne. She knew she was meant for the sport the moment she stepped onto the floor. She made it to the regionals by the time she was 9 years old, and at 10, she came second at the U.S. Challenge. That's impressive. But what's even more impressive is the fact that she was the youngest athlete in the country to qualify as a junior international elite. In 2016, she competed in the P&G Championships, earning 2 medals on floor and on beam. And 2 years later, in 2018, she competed in the Nationals Championships, where she made it to 18th all around. Lastly, this is where Olivia Dunne became Livy the TikTok sensation. Fast forward to 2020, the budding athlete decided to accept a full scholarship at LSU and start competing at the college level. And it's also when she joined TikTok, where she started by posting videos of her gymnastics routines. But eventually, it transformed into a lifestyle. In July 2021, she had over 4 million followers on the app. Now, here's the fun part. 2 things happened in July 2021. First, Livy amassed 4 million followers. And 2, the NCAA changed its rule to allow athletes to make money from their name, image, and likeness, or NIL as they say. And her NIL valuation at the time of this video is $2.7 million. So, combined with her various sponsorships such as American Eagle, Forever 21, as well as an app called Nate, she is one of the most successful student athletes in recent history. She takes the responsibility of her representing her sport very seriously. She's only accepted sponsorships she knew had an authentic background. And even though the pressure of having a massive following is huge, having a 7-figure income is something she's very proud of. And that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for watching. So, what do you think of the whole situation? And do you think it'll continue happening in the future? Tell us down below. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this, and we'll see you in the next one.